So, welcome to yet another episode from the TGV Global Speakers Series. And our guest for today is Federica Bressan, and she's from Italy. She's a researcher and a science communicator with a background in technology and culture. She's the producer of the Technoculture podcast and also conducts independent video interviews on her YouTube channel. Her passion is to give science a voice and make a deep societal impact. She believes in a strong role for science in society, in evidence-based discussions, and in a just society. And as we prepare to delve into our conversation on the topic at hand, from musician to scientist to author, a maverick's tale of meaning and happiness, here is an exciting twist. Let us tickle the brains of our guest first. So, Federica, get ready for the first rapid fire round. Here is the rapid fire round of random words. I'm going to mention a few and I would love to hear the first thing that comes to your mind in response without thinking much. Are you ready for it?
Okay, yeah, I'm ready.
Let's dive right in. Here comes my first word. Curiosity.
Science.
Invention.
Technology.
Future.
Robots.
Book.
Story.
Movie.
Couch.
Life.
Life. Now.
Universe.
Vastity.
And then aliens.
Aliens. UFO. For sure.
Okay. Success.
Stars.
And the final one is person.
Respect.
Awesome. And thank you so much for participating in the first rapid fire round. I really appreciate it, Federica. And stay tuned for the second one towards the end of this episode. Folks, welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series where we embark on transformative conversations for a better future. I'm your host, Naveen Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place through valuable discussions that add value not only to your life but also to your career. And thank you so much for tuning in. Federica, hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice. Super thrilled to have you part of today's conversation. And how are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. And thank you much for having me on your show. And congratulations on your show.
Thank you so much for your support and a pleasure to have you. Let's get started, Federica. Maybe we'll begin with your success mantra. Please share with our audience the top 3 things that have contributed to your success so far.
Well, even before we define success in general, I would say whatever you do, do it well. Whatever you do, each time in your life, do it well, small or big. And then never elbow your way to any goal. Just let what belongs to you find you. Don't make it happen, but let it happen. Your job is to do things well and the rest will come to you. So the third point will be just have faith in life, which is something you maybe have or don't have. It's hard to force yourself to have faith if you don't, but the point of having faith is trusting life to always bring to you everything you need, and even in abundance.
Fabulous. I'm simply impressed by your thought process. Now let's talk about your milestones of your journey. Like you have been a multi-pod, if I may call it, right? From being a journalist to musician to academic researcher to becoming a successful podcaster, right? So were there any turning points or experiences that shaped your path?
For sure, many. Again, it's a bit of a broad question because there have been many turning points in my career, in the profession, why I switched profession or as a person in my personal growth. It's not the usual thing to switch career in your life, or you can do different jobs, odd jobs, but I actually really focused on one thing for about a decade and then moved to another thing for another decade, leaving behind what I had done before, changing hats. So I really feel like I have lived multiple lives in one so far. And each one has, of course, taught me something. As for milestones, you're not asking for the highlights of those. Milestones, moving abroad, for sure. Milestones, interestingly, I could mention some moment in my career that from the outside and from any point of view would actually look like failure. So moments where something didn't go well at all, were turning moments that actually, determined when I went next, but that was a very good place. So I remember big failures as being turning moments, but I don't remember them as something that I wish didn't happen, because eventually I end up in a good place. So without going into specifics, I think that's one thing to comment, is that I never had a specific plan. Now I'm going to do this for 10 years, and then I'm going to move on to this other career. In general, I go with the flow, and it's so hard to explain this to people, because even as I live today, I give the impression of not having a plan, living day by day as it comes. And it's not like that. Living is an art, and going with the flow means that you let everything that life can bring to you get to you, because you don't have your own fixed, plan that, actually blocks serendipity out and surprises out. I completed a PhD, I completed master's degrees, other degrees. So I have proven to know how to commit to long-term journeys of any kind. It's not, I go with the flow, I have no plan, but in what I do well. But in general, in life, I didn't know what I would end up doing. I always followed my passions. And so these career changes and what I have done just happened to me. And even looking back, these turning points, it all just kind of happened. And including COVID, which is the main recent turning point, because I lost my job and that interrupted my whole career at university.
Okay.
There's no regret there. It just happened, and now I'm here, and maybe I'm going to say something more about it in a second. And I'm very happy. So it's good and the bad, and the most important thing is precisely what my message through every question you're going to ask me today is to try to give this message that you have to be in the river of your life, but also always a little bit detached, and to observe it from the outside, to keep a clear view on priorities, and don't get too upset or caught up in small things that don't deserve all this stress in the long run of life. Very preachy.
Yep. Awesome. And this is one of the most unique perspectives that I've come across, Federica. Like, I have interviewed more than 500 people in the last 3.5 years, but you are really different. I could see that you have been considering certain failures as favorite failures, like, which is great. Like, that is a awesome attitude to have. And at the same time, you wanted to go with the flow and absorb from time to time. So this is something intriguing, and it brings me to my next question. Like, for every decade you have been into some profession, like you have been into a different career experience. So all these diverse career experiences, like being a journalist, musician, academic researcher, so did they influence and complement each other? And have they contributed to your authorship as well in one way or the other?
You made something else come to my mind. The answer is yes.
Okay.
But I would almost challenge the question. And something else that you made come to my mind is that during this interview, I will do my best as another message to get across is implicitly, by the things I say, to challenge many of the assumed ways of life that we think we must follow. Also, that of course you do something and you learn from it as you do it, but I was always there before starting the thing and while I was doing it. So of course everything complements each other, because I did all of these things. I'm always me. I'm one person. Even if I've been an astronaut and then a butcher, those two things need to have a common denominator, because they do have it, and that's me. So of course one can change a career and the two careers have nothing to do with each other. That's fine. In my case, I really want to say they could not have anything to do with each other. Musician and academic researcher, or journalist or author or podcaster. Why would they have something common necessarily? They do, because they are all a different expression of my passions. And I see with age, and I'm happy of this, that they converge. they converged because journalism came back into podcasting. I do interviews, it's a little bit of being a journalist to be a podcaster, you would know. And then an author. So I was a journalist for the press. So now when I wrote my novel, I went back to writing, to literature. And as an academic researcher, of course, which came just after being a musician, I wasn't performing, but I worked with audio and multimedia. So I was not performing again. And I went down hard on math and computer science because this is what I was doing. But I worked on audio and multimedia. It's something I love. So, and then my podcast is called Technoculture, which is every way in which technology impacts our lives today and how it changes what it means to be human today.
Okay.
So to me, as you see, I challenge the question because I see all of these things as actually one coherent body of work. But when I started my PhD in computer science, after having a degree in musicology and after having been a musician, I was being questioned all the time. Why? How come? And why would I have to justify myself? Like, it's so odd. Like, I love it. It's my interest. Why do I have to justify it so much? And then after 10 years of doing it, then people invite you to speak here and there as a multidisciplinary profile that combines music and technology. And nobody asks to just justify yourself anymore, but maybe then we'll ask questions just like you did. That anyway, you see why I challenge the question. They still start from the assumption, which is very understandable.
Yeah.
Why these different things? And my answer is no, guys. To me, it's always been one coherent body of work. And I believe that it's the same for anyone else out there who's done different things in their lives.
Fantastic. Now you're able to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. Now let's take a step back. And a while ago, you mentioned about COVID-19 has marked a significant shift in your career, in your life as well. So you said you lost your job as an academic researcher. So can you elaborate on how this transition happened? Because losing a job, but you found a newfound focus on leading a good life and also started pursuing your creative endeavors, right? So how did this transition happen? And initially, what was your thought? Like, were you puzzled? Did you feel bad about it? Okay, why did this happen to me?
I was in New York City, working as a researcher with a Fulbright grant. You could say I was peaking in my career as a researcher. Or I'm very proud to say I had another prestigious grant before that. So I had been peaking for the past 3 years of being in New York. I was doing very well. I was just doing very well in EMEA. And I was in New York having the time of my life, you can imagine. Although I have to, say at the same time that I was conducting independent work and doing lots of podcast interviews on the side. And I was expanding my interests again. The podcast was initially inspired by my own research, but then it really broadened and I started reading other things. So I was doing my job, but then taking as much time as possible on the side to cultivate these interests. And I was eager to have more and more time to do that. So the fact that COVID happened and brought everything to a stop initially was almost welcome for me, just like I'm sure it was for many, many other people, because you suddenly had a bit more time to yourself to do the things you wanted to do. And initially, nobody knew how it would develop and evolve, of course. So I say that I lost my job, and it's absolutely technically correct, but it's not in a bad way. I was fired. It was no mutual agreement, no, but let's say, the danger of the situation was manifest. And so the Fulbright people said to every fellow, feel free to stay or to return to your country. You assess the risk. They didn't kick us out. And I thought about, I was going to stay actually, but I was seeing every other colleague go back to Germany and to other European countries. And I felt like in those movies where everybody is running the opposite direction and you're just standing still there. And for a moment you wonder, can everybody else be wrong? So I said, okay, with my broken heart, I leave New York and I go back to Europe, and I end my grant here. So I did not deliver the results of that grant, and I came back to Europe. And then that's a little bit of an adventure, but to make a long story a bit shorter, I ended up settling in central Italy, where I am right now talking to you, which is, I'm Italian, but I wasn't born here. I come from a very different place in Italy, in the northeast.
Okay.
I had, you could say, never been here. And I settled here and I found a little place, and I'm here 3 years later, and I published a novel. How the profession went is that I tried to find a job like crazy when I was still abroad. I was in Brussels, Belgium, right before, upon my return to Europe. And there was nothing, because it was like full COVID time. And not just as a researcher, I mean anything, driver, info point, teacher, loading and unloading fruit baskets at the market. There was nothing, because it was like full 2020 COVID and nobody knew how things would develop. So I ended up here in central Italy, and I'm still here. And since then, I kept working with science communication. I haven't had a research grant since. I did try a few times without, obsessing over it too much. I tried, it didn't work out. Sometimes I turned some offers down, didn't happen. So my career as an academic researcher ended right there, mostly because of COVID. But I embraced this time that became available to me. I kept working with podcasting, some teaching communication, teaching multimedia editing, teaching English here in Italy, teaching music, everything I can do, I can teach. But I do not have a full-time job currently. So that was my only doubt being on your podcast, because is it fair that I dispense any advice on career, life, and profession, since right now I'm technically unemployed? And I thought, well, hell yeah, because I've had successful careers, and my lifestyle, my life model right now, I believe is something worth sharing.
Absolutely.
I'm here trying to talk about these things. What I do here in central Italy is currently to not have full employment, so to have much time on my hands. And that's why I wrote the novel, which, being an author is not a job. But creativity flourishes in the void, so to speak, in boredom, even when you just have time. And instead of chasing things, that's a lifestyle that I refuse to go back to. I worked my tail off with a passion, but I worked my tail off for years and years and years. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Many of your listeners know what I'm talking about. But the stress of it is something I'm never going back to. I stick to slow pace, focus on what you do it well, be kind. If I cannot be kind to my coworkers, to people around me, I will not do it. It's people before things, people before money, people before ambition and goals and career. People first, always.
Superb. Yours is an inspirational story, and I don't look for somebody whether they're employed, unemployed, or whether they're an entrepreneur. All I need is wisdom, like what you have learned and what you can share with our audience. So I think you have already qualified to be a guest, and in fact, you are a great inspiration, Federica. I'm loving this conversation to the core, and let's talk about balancing this passionate career versus fulfillment in terms of personal fulfillment. So you mentioned the importance of living well and with meaning, right? So that is also very important. So how do you strike a balance between maintaining a passionate career as well as personal fulfillment?
I couldn't. When I was working as a musician, that was the main careers. Decade plus as a musician, decade plus as an academic researcher. Journalism happened on the side. I was all consumed by this. They were passions. I wasn't working 40 hours a week for someone else or so. I was very passionate about what I was doing. I always had the drive. I had, if you want, a healthy desire to get farther, to learn one more thing, to do one more thing, to test myself, to challenge myself again in this direction. Like, I was very, very passionate about it, but it was never balanced with life. You never stop your shift. You are what you do. I'm just saying this is what it is. I will never recommend this, but if you're born with a passion, well, good luck to you, because it's also a blessing. It's a gift. It's something to cultivate. But at least for me, it was all consuming. And so I thought I was very happy, and probably I was when I was doing those things. And then with age, because I am 42 now, so it's not a 22 years old speaking. I slowed down and stopped, and I'm doing different things now. But look what I've done. I have worked my tail off, and look what I've accomplished, and look the experiences, all this knowledge. So even if it's unusual for a 42-year-old to slow down and live in the woods outside and woods inside, as you can see here in the wall, it's unusual. I believe in this, and it's my journey, and it's because I was hyperactive for so long that now it makes sense to stop. What was I saying? But as long as I did what I was doing with a passion, I couldn't say that I was having a life, honestly. So I'm not going to pretend. I did a podcast on mental health in academia. And of course, how much time you devote to work, the workload. These are all very relevant topics. And I was just, the producer of the podcast, and I was interested and somehow knowledgeable about these topics, but I did not have answers, because it's not popular to say no. And specifically research, for example, but there are others. It is a profession that you do out of passion. And therefore, you don't even want to say stop or no. You just need to be put in the right conditions to do your best. But it doesn't make sense to say, okay, if I go home at 5:00 p.m. exactly and come back tomorrow morning at 9, then I have a work-life balance that is more fulfilling, that elevates the quality of my life. I don't think it does. If you do what you do with a passion, you don't want to go home at 5, like someone, clocks in and clocks out. You want to finish what you were doing. So the problem is somewhere else. It's not that. It's not easy. It's complex. Speaking for me, what I have accomplished, because my academic resume is like 30 pages long, if I'm not mistaken. And I promise you that it didn't write itself. But the dark side of that, although I looked happy all the way along doing those things, and is that I did not have a life. I was doing that 24/7. So no balance there. But now I'm taking revenge. Now I'm moving to a next phase in my life where I focus on living.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my job right now, to live, to feel, to live. Yeah, certainly.
Okay, great. Now let's talk about this definition of winning at life. What's in your opinion about winning at life? You mentioned about taking revenge, and you want to be focused, and as you rightly mentioned, if somebody is really passionate, they don't have to look at the clock saying that, okay, I have to close my job here. And now it seems that you are trying to win at life. So what's your definition of winning at life?
Well, it's very easy, very cliche. Winning at life is just being content and knowing what you have. I think I try to combine different views. Like, it's true that there's more to life than being fed, having a roof over your head. There's more to that. You want more. You want the emotions. You want the adventure. You want some personal satisfaction. But it's also true that you must be thankful if you have enough food and a roof over your head, and if you're healthy. You see different things. It's very important. And it takes very little to be happy. Now I'm going down very heavy, like on philosophical stuff. I believe and I think that there's much ground to share this opinion that we live in a society of induced needs that started decades and decades ago. One of the reasons why I can support myself and enjoy my free time is that, for example, I don't have Netflix or Disney Channel or many other things, or I don't go out for drinks every other night. I cut back on stuff that I realized I don't need.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that we are so drugged with what we think is comfort and what we would not give up, that we are not clear on what we really need and what is comfort and what is a treat and what is extra. And those things take up energy and money and time. And how I see this, it may not apply to everyone, but to many others. I'm sure it does. If you cut back on those things and value your time and acknowledge your health and truly acknowledge the loved ones around you, that's quality of life. Now, this is a bit of bleak turn. I often remind myself of the fact that life has an end. You could say I often think about death, and that keeps motivating me. I don't believe in live today if it was the last day of your life, because otherwise you just go crazy. No way. Life is a long journey.
Mm-hmm.
Life is a marathon. It's not a one-day party. So don't live like you die tomorrow. Live like you know you'll die one day and you don't know when. And don't take it for granted that it's going to be in many decades from now, which is something else we take for granted today, thanks to science and medicine and technology. Once upon a time, they died at any age and way more often than we do. We have to be very grateful for medicine. So if you live with this couple of ideas down very clearly, you approach things differently. And I hate to talk. I don't have many friends that live very badly, actually. I have happy friends. But I hear people anyway that are always stressed when you say, so, hey, how are you? They say, I'm tired and I'm late. What the hell is that? Don't get me started on how the global scenario has been changing now with the wars, the job that the media are doing. If someone has anxiety or depression or that, it seems that they have all the reasons. I strongly believe in countering this with leading good lives and be responsible adults, accountable for our choices, and try to never complain. It's an interesting exercise. And by never, I mean never. Never complain. Don't do it. It's an interesting exercise. I'm not going into it, but I'll just leave it at that. Just never complain. Just lead a life that you're proud of. And I know that not everybody has some luxury, the freedom to lead the life I'm leading, but trust you me, I'm not rich. I don't come from a rich background. I have never strategized my jobs and my career. I've always done it with so much passion that as long as I had enough to live, I would work 24/7. And look where it led me, that I'm here. So I'm saying again, it doesn't apply to anyone. To many, I'm sure. If it resonates with you, give it a thought that you can cut back on certain things and value the quality of your life truly, if anything, because damn it, one day we won't be here. Don't you want to enjoy the ride while you're here?
Superb. I think there's a lot of revelation that is happening as I talk to you. And I think you have gained a lot of wisdom in the last 4 decades. Like you said, you are 42, and I could see that the thoughts that you are sharing, right? They're highly meaningful, and I can resonate with you on many aspects of it. And thank you so much for sharing so candidly with our audience. Federica, this has been fabulous conversation so far, but it's time for us to add some excitement and some more spice. So get ready as we dive into a series of intriguing rapid fire questions. This is the second one, and just to spice up the episode further, if you are ready, let's get started. Are you ready? Awesome.
Let's go.
Let's do it. So here comes the first bullet. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
Be kind or leave.
Wow. And what is one thing that you are really bad at that you wish you were better or good at?
Cooking.
And can you describe yourself in just one word?
Joyful.
Awesome. And what comes to your mind when you think of space?
Star Trek.
Star
Of course. What else?
And was there any situation where you stayed up for more than 24 hours?
Yes, more than one. I almost touched 40. I never touched 40, but almost. Many times.
Oh, what was the reason like? Only during sporting?
I told you I was working the music. It's like hypnosis. Keep going. Absolutely. It's madness. It's madness. Yeah.
Indeed, like once we become so passionate about something, right? It becomes madness. So right now, podcasting is my madness at this moment. Like there are situations wherein I have interviewed 7-8 people in a single day. You can't believe.
For a while, it's okay. Like another mantra that I love is everything in moderation, including moderation, which means that sometimes you can overdo something. I think that's awesome. So keep doing it, and then you'll change. So exhaust yourself. It's awesome.
Good one. And here comes the last bullet out of rapid fire round. What is one electronic gadget or a fantasy gadget that you'd like to see or invent yourself?
An electronic gadget that I would like to invent myself that does not exist.
Yeah, which does not exist. That's right.
Ooh, yes. Well, it's a huge thing. It's like a huge AI that interfaces itself with me with natural language, and that I can ask questions to. I mean, we will get there. We will get there, but we're not there yet. Yeah, I wish I had that because I'm sick of asking Google things. I think that it's not working out. I think that there's so much wrong with so much technology at the point where we are in the development. And it's not the technology's fault. It's the design and how we then use it. So I wish that I already had like this entity. It doesn't need to be an Android. It could be a box. It could be anything. Could be something I wear or something that just is in the air someplace, ubiquitous, that I can ask questions to in my natural language and that responds to me in natural language, but it's an all-knowing AI agent.
Yeah, I'm sure it is going to be a reality very soon. And that was a good one. So great rapid fire. With that, let's flip back to the mainstream, Federica. And how do you hope your story and experiences can inspire or guide others in finding their own path to happiness, purpose, and a fulfilling career? So what would be your key message that you would like to share with our audience?
Easy as it seems is boundaries and kindness. These two things come back. Because if I just say be kind, I don't vouch for that. Be good, be kind. It's not enough. You need to have boundaries and kindness. Be kind to others as you are to yourself, especially, hear this. So be good is very much in fashion. Everybody wants to say, I'm such a good person. Well, there's something in being good, and that's fair. Because sometimes when you're good, you indulge in something, you give in to someone, and you become an enabler of someone's vice, So you have to be fair, which means that sometimes you're able to give tough love. And there's something even better than being fair, which is being kind, which is being fair and sweet. That's my pyramid of behaviors and values. So clear boundaries and be fair and be kind. Or I could also say, don't be jerks. Come on, guys. Don't make the world the worst place to live in. If you don't want to do good, at least do no harm.
Yeah.
Don't be a bitch about things. Come on. We all want to live well on this planet. There's space for everyone. There's plenty for everyone. It's not my quote. You would know that. But there's not enough for everyone's greed. So.
Super. Very nice message.
How about that?
I loved it to the core, and I love the message to the core. And before I let you go, share your experience about being hosted on the Guiding Voice platform.
Well, you invited me on the show, and I thank you for it. And you were very clear and organized in the process before today, before the recording. That's not always the case. I appreciated it very much. You have not just welcomed me on the show very much, but showed interest, and you could fit what I have to bring to you into the narrative of your own podcast. So you're being the perfect host and podcast producer, because you lead, but at the same time give space. So I hope anything I said was of any interest to your audience. And I thank you for the opportunity for being here and trying to share messages that seem trivial sometimes, like be kind or have faith in life. But it's actually super complex. And I'm sure that I don't know if I do a great job or a poor job, but I do it with all my heart, because I believe so many people out there are hungry for these messages.
Yeah. One of the most important takeaways for me is whatever you do it well. It has been ringing ever since you stated in the podcast. And Federica, I sincerely appreciate you taking time for joining me on this conversation. Thank you so much for all the amazing insights. And this is one of the most engaging conversations and one of the most interesting conversations that I've ever had on my podcast. And I'm sure I'm going to invite you again in the future. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So it was pleasure to host Federica. And friends, that was our episode with Federica Bressan. And before we jump into the fun trivia section, we have a quick request. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast from wherever you have tuned in, because subscribing keeps you updated on new episodes. And also, if you have enjoyed this conversation and found the episode useful, request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who would also like the guiding voice. Spread knowledge and help others grow just like you. Now let's cruise into the trivia segment. We had an amazing conversation with one of the Italian authors in the form of Federica. So I thought I would give you some more information about Italian authors. So here comes the first fact. It is about diverse literary heritage that Italy has. Italy has a rich and diverse literary heritage with contributions from renowned authors such as Dante Alighieri and Giovanni Boccaccio and Petrarch during the Middle Ages, giving birth to Italian literature. And when it comes to the modern authors, Italy continues to produce influential modern authors, including Umberto Eco, Italo Calvino, Tiziano Terzani, whose works have gained international acclaim, blending contemporary themes with cultural and historical depth. And the last one is about Nobel laureates in the literature. Italy boasts several Nobel laureates in literature, including Luigi Pirandello, Grazia Deledda, Salvatore Quasimodo, and Eugenio Montale. I truly apologize in case if I have mispronounced any of these names, but these guys have made significant contributions to the world literature and garnered prestigious recognition for their literary achievements. So here comes a question to all of you, whoever is watching this episode or listening to this episode. In case if you have any fun facts related to Italian authors or any significant achievements related to them, feel free to comment them on YouTube if you are watching the episode there. Or if you have found this episode on social media platform, you can comment there. I'm going to review them for sure in future. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and spending your valuable time, and also for being part of our awesome community. We would love to hear from you. So do not hesitate to share your ideas and feedback either through social media, or you can also reach out to us through email, theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. Let's create content that resonates with you. I'm your host, Naveen Samala, a lifelong learner, and my goal is to have impactful conversations that improve not only your life, but also your career. And until next time, take care, stay inspired, and remember, the future holds great things because the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you all in the next episode with another amazing guest. Take care.